Hi, I'm Lisa, and this is Sophie, and today we'll be talking about Flight 1549 and Sullenberger's emergency landing on the Hudson River.
The situation. So Flight 1549, piloted by Captain Sullenberger, collided with a flock of geese shortly after takeoff, and this resulted in damage to both engines and forced an emergency landing on the Hudson River. Upon impact, a number of safety issues were highlighted. For example, there were no anti-blocking communication devices, resulting in limited communication between the pilot and air traffic control during the descent. The air traffic control people were inexperienced in bird strikes of such severity and were therefore unsure of what the next steps should have been. The pilots themselves were not trained with landing on water, which was the most viable solution in this scenario. And lastly, the passengers did not read the safety cards for the most part and were therefore unaware of how to access the life vests and how to open the emergency exits. So although this situation itself was very much an accident, insufficient management resulted in heightened threats to the lives of both the passengers and the staff on board. So why is this important? Well, first and foremost, plane crashes have the potential to be devastating. Especially on commercial flights like these, the lives of hundreds are threatened. And so in this instance in particular, there were no fatalities. And so it's important that we look back on it and identify factors that led to this positive outcome so that they can later be applied to future high pressure situations. In this case, such factors include the fact that the pilot was well rested and that he was highly competent at his job. But likewise, there were many things that went wrong during the plane's descent, and these issues can be identified and kind of patched up so that airline passengers are kept as safe as possible going into the future.
Moving on to TCPS2, one of the modules that we looked at was the risk and benefits one, as the lives of 150 passengers, 5 crew members, and 2 pilots were put at risk as a result of inadequate safety systems. 100 of the passengers and crew members suffered minor and severe injuries, and they also suffered from PTSD. However, one of the benefits was the fact that it revealed how little passengers actually read and understood the safety manuals in place. This will be further discussed in our Ways to Overcome section. Another module that we looked at was the conflict of interest, and this is because the entire event was heavily portrayed throughout the media. Sullenberger actually published a book about it, and a blockbuster movie was made. And this creates a conflict of financial gain, as it is likely that Sullenberger and other members made a large amount of money off the media publications. And in the media portrayals, the event, Sullenberger, and the airline are glorified and heroized, while the US aviation investigators were villainized. And ultimately, it undermines the importance of the accident, which is the lack of proper training methods and safety measures. And a similar connection is privacy and confidentiality, and this is because the heavy news coverage made it increasingly difficult for passengers to remain anonymous as they were bombarded by reporters or journalists. And additionally, the event was recorded and many photographs were taken, which makes it easy for passengers to be identified.
Potential ways to overcome. There were a lot of issues highlighted in this situation, all of which can be addressed. So first and foremost, we can better test and subsequently redesign our plane engines so that they are more bird strike resistant. We can also implement the use of anti-blocking communication devices in a more widespread manner. We could also train pilots to land on water using technologies such as virtual reality, and we can further develop protocols for low altitude engine failure, since at the time such protocols didn't exist and they were very much needed in this situation. Lastly, we can enhance passenger safety with a number of small fixes that go a long way. So we can increase the visibility of safety vests. We can use quick release attachments on emergency exits. We can develop systems to ensure that safety protocol information is more effectively communicated to passengers, since maybe the safety cards used on board this time weren't the best medium to do so. And that's it for our presentation. Thank you so much for listening, and here are our sources.